life can be very comfortable. And it was something that I've said quite a lot. If I don't do an ice bath every day for the next 60 days, what happens? Nothing. If I don't go to the gym for 60 days, what happens? Nothing. See, the consequences for not doing this are not visual until they are. Because not doing these things, not building up your stress tolerance, slowly and surely things get to you so much easier. When I see someone who is taking the piss out of getting up early, looking after your physical health, eating healthily, they see it as a joke and go, well, I don't do any of that, and I feel fine. So why have you just spent the last hour arguing with a stranger on the internet? What you don't see that this does is it just enables you to think very differently, enables you to be a lot more self-aware. And I don't know the statistic, but I was reading quite a bit, and apparently only about 15% of the world are actually self-aware. And a level of self-awareness where they can take themselves out and go, I'm being a dick, or I'm not doing enough, or I need to step things up a level, or you've had enough now, stop fucking around. And it takes a lot to do that, because a lot of people aren't willing to be honest with themselves of not where they want to be. There's this avoidance is a lot easier than action, because we don't want to face our demons because it's painful. And I say, well, you can either face them now for the next 6 months, or you can face them for the rest of your life. It's that old cliche quote of the pain of change is much less painful than the pain of staying the same. And one thing that I found is when I build up daily stress tolerance, when I face these things that most people don't want to do, two things happen. Firstly, discipline is a muscle which needs to be strengthened and built daily. And if you build that daily and maintain it, anything that life throws at you, you can deal with. That person on the internet who sends you a shitty message, you just brush it off. And one of the things that I say to a lot of people is that you need to have your shit squared in many different areas: physically, mentally, financially, and emotionally. And the way that I kind of have this as an analogy is that there's a lot of people that are drowning in something: debt, relationship problems, life. And one thing they say is, if somebody is drowning, don't go in and rescue them, because what will happen is they don't know what they're doing. So they'll pull you down and you'll drown too. The only time you should go in and rescue someone is if you're an expert swimmer. How do you become an expert swimmer? Stress tolerance, eating healthy, exercising, earning good money, saving, not having all of the things that trigger people because they're not willing to face the reality that they're not working on those things. So if you don't do these things, nothing will happen. Life will eventually be more and more difficult to deal with.
Facing stressors and overcoming them is really a wonderful way to live a fulfilled life. So I'll give you a few examples from my personal life. So I used to be a very competitive soccer player, heading to play professionally in Europe. And then one day on a whim, this was 1985, I decided to set some new goals. I would run at least one full marathon a year, forevermore. And then by the age of 35, I would do an Ironman triathlon, which is, sort of the ultimate long distance endurance test. So in 1985, with very, very little training for marathons, other than being a very much in shape soccer player, I ran the Montreal Marathon actually in 1985, completed it in very, very good time. But that is an example of just deciding that I want to do marathons and Ironman triathlons simply because they are punishing, and I think I was excited by the prospect of facing that. I'll give you another example in a completely different domain. When I was looking for which subjects to major in in my undergraduate, so I studied math and computer science because it was the opposite of the path of least resistance. It was the path of most resistance. I could have studied an easier field and ended up ultimately perhaps where I did end up, but I wouldn't have challenged myself the most. And so I can look to many, many other examples in my life where I have imposed these difficult stressors because it just seemed like that's how I would benefit the most. I would overcome them and then win.
It's a constant conscious activity that you've got to engage in. The more you can do it, the better. I am constantly walking around saying, embrace this moment, embrace this moment. If you're rushing around doing stuff, you'll usually find that you don't do it any faster anyway. And the reason you're doing that is because you're not in the present. You know, one thing I always say when I'm doing something, whether it's boring or not, just say to yourself, I am the master of this moment. I'm in this moment, make the most of every moment. But the thing is, the way the mind is geared up, and exactly when it's linked with our survival, we are basing everything as a snapshot of the past. Can you relate to this? You go into a room, you go to a networking event, whether that's for work or whether a social thing or whatsoever, and you walk in, you meet a load of strangers, you shake their hand, and straight away afterwards you say, I've got a clue what their names are. Everyone does it. You do, don't you? Yeah. We all do it. The reason you're doing that is because your mind is scanning for threat. Your mind is looking at that person, each person that you're being introduced to, and it's going through the database of images of everyone you've met in your past and trying to link that to an emotion. It's trying to see if there's someone that's caused you any kind of threat previously, and it's trying to match that. When it can't match any kind of person that you're meeting in its database, it's on high alert. And that's how we are basically, that's how we're programmed. We're programmed that way. That's a survival instinct. Now, when it comes to opportunities and everything, we look at opportunities the same way. We look at anything sort of negotiating any kind of risk, any kind of uncharted territory will go through the same process. And this is why people don't challenge themselves. They don't take risks because they don't understand the process that they're going through. This causes hesitation, procrastination, everything. But once you understand that, you understand that's part of the program. That's how that's our genetic makeup. Once you understand that, you learn to work with it and learn to understand that. That's a natural thing that's going to happen. So really, when it comes to our survival instinct, there's so many things that we have to bear in mind, that when we're forced into that survival instinct, and you've only got to look at society these days, you look around, you look at the news, it's fear-based, everything is fear-based. And the reason it is, the media, everything is because there's nothing more that will get your attention in the moment than fear. And that's natural. Yeah, everything is fear-based. Fear is just a mental and emotional rehearsal for something you don't want to happen. And you have to control these emotions. You have to understand that that's just our humanness. But it's being worked against us because we don't understand it. We don't understand the power of the subconscious mind.
So the thing too is, like, what the military taught me was structure, right? So like I said, from making the bed to washing dishes, the structure, it taught me structure, to not avoid the small things. Attention to detail, we always say, In war, if I'm driving down this route at night under night vision, and this box that's sitting on the side of the road, this cardboard box wasn't there for the route. You understand? So it's about attention to detail. Okay, so what the military taught me was just that. Attention to detail, mission planning. It taught me discipline. So I was able to take all those valuable assets and apply it to business. It teaches you to be a leader. You have to be a leader in the military. You go to leadership development schools. As a Green Beret, I had to train, FID forces. I had to be a leader. So I took that aspect of leadership and I brought it into the military. My strict upbringing, it taught me to do shit that I don't want to do. And what is discipline? Discipline is being able to do shit that you don't want to do, right? Based off on what is your end state? What do you want to be? Look, people say too, why do you get up so freaking early? Because it's hard. it takes discipline. I don't want to get up that early. It takes discipline, right? So it's about doing stuff you don't want to do, right? And that's what the military and my strict upbringing taught me, but also what the Special Forces taught me was to be like water, to be able to form with my environment. At this stage of my life, I had to renew my mind, right? I had to renew my mind with how I believe on who I want to be, right? So as a business owner, I had to change the way I view the world. And I learned that through the military, through my strict upbringing, and also, you know, my discipline as in allowing my mind to adapt to the environment. And I took that from the Special Forces.
Listen carefully to the next ones, because these are my favorite truths from the video. And today's video was made possible with your support. So I want to say thank you so much to everybody who supported us at Mulliganbrothers.com, where you can get the interactive poster that reminds you that you're going to die, with 10% off at checkout using code STOIC. Let's jump back into the video.
I think there's so much out there that we're not even open to exploring. Like if I'm sitting here saying we chanted with 4 different people, I chanted for 10 minutes and I was buzzing off my tits because of that. It wasn't through drugs, it wasn't through anything, that was just through chanting one word. People watching this, it might work for them, it might not. But if you can feel something different, then rather than be depressed and numb to what could be out there, I think for me it's very nice to think that there's other things out there that we can do. And for me, like last night, it was amazing last night. You went for a swim with Neve, Kush, myself, we went in, and you're just laughing, like uncontrollable laughing. Like I'm like, this is insane. Like, why am I laughing so much? You've got like mad dark clouds, it's raining, it's windy, the spray from the waves, Neve's getting pummeled by the waves, Kush is getting pummeled, I'm just buzzing. I'm like, wow, this is like, those type of moments are so simple, but yet so happy. It can make you so happy, it can make your day so much better. But yet oh, you're a maniac for going for a swim. I might be a maniac, but I'm happy at the end of the day. You know, I get to go home, have a nice evening, be happy, chill. And yeah, so I don't know if it's spiritual, I don't know. I'm not some guru of anything. I'm just some guy in Invergordon looking to try and feel a bit more and get a bit more energy out of simple things.
Goals are so important for everyone. Now, the way the mind is structured, the mind starts to panic when it can't see the path to the goal. So as soon as you start to come up with something that you want to achieve, it will throw in, what about you're going to do about money, what you're going to do about this, what you're going to do that. And because you can't connect the dots and build your way to that destination, it will negate the fact it can be done. And this is why people do not achieve their goals and their dreams, because they're not prepared to head for something that they can't see the path to. You know, and having a goal, you know, there's different types of goals. Some people think that having a goal is just about, you know, as long as I can see the path to it, blah, blah, blah. That's a process. That is not a goal. A goal is something that excites you but scares you at the same time, and you cannot see the path to. When I wanted to start my business Breakpoint, I was battered and broken. I was in a house trying to change who I was. But that goal for me, my mind was telling me all kinds of stuff. That inner narrator was going on, that you're a loser, you can't even string a sentence together. How can you help other people? Look at you, look at your history, look what's happened before, blah, blah, blah. Look at you drinking, da, 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 da. All that negative programming just coming in, you know, which was based on everything of the past. You know, minds want to predict the future based on the past. And this is where we fall down, you know, because it's very hard for us to basically switch that off and head for that destination anyway. You know, just because we can't see the path doesn't mean we can't achieve it. In fact, you shouldn't be able to see the path. The growth begins within, not without. And this goes back to me stating it was like an epiphany for me, where I finally realized that nothing is external. You know, the majority of people think they want to change, and they think they can change their external environment, which will make them change. Nothing changes until you change the energy of who you are. You know, but everyone thinks, well, let's relocate, let's go and get another job, let's do this, let's get a loan. You know, let's go and get a loan for the business, and then that will change everything. Unless you change who you are, nothing's going to change. So really, this is why we have to focus within, otherwise we end without. You know, and that's why it's so important. The change needs to come from within. Whether that's, you know, for me, when I started on my goals to start my company Breakpoint, the first 3 months of it was a 12-month goal that I'd set. And the first 3 months of that weren't even about Breakpoint. The first 3 months of that were about me, reducing the amount I was drinking at the time. I don't drink anymore, but it was reducing at that point because my inner narrator told me that I'm never going to be able to stop drinking. I managed to conquer that, which was one of the greatest battles. But that inner narrator is what you've got to get over. But you know, for the first 3 months, it was about identifying my weaknesses. They became my goals. So you know, is the amount I'm drinking helping me? No. Is toxic relationships, are they helping me? Are the people I'm associating with, are they helping me? You know, it's about making sure those negatives become your goals. So really, you know, everything I do is about, you know, and everything I advise anyone to do is don't start heading for the big goal unless you've got the foundation of who you are right first. You know, people that come on our courses and things like that, and we're moving now very much into that virtual space. We're building our own platform, but you know, it's about creating the foundation of you first before anything. You know, people want to change their life. They say, oh, I want to come up with a business. I want to do this, that, and the other. They try and force that in the frontal cortex where your conscious mind is. And the answer's not there. I'll tell you now, if you do want to start your own business, you want to do your own thing, get who you are, get your energy centered, get your energy, your frequency at high vibration. The idea will come soon. But stop trying to force it and work on yourself. Nothing changes unless you change the energy of you.
As you know, everything in life is about balance. The mistake that people make is that they try and hang around with too many successful people, and too much of a good thing's bad for you. Because when you do that, you start to feel that no matter what you're doing, it's not enough. Because you're always comparing to people who are playing a 10x game to you. Frank Shamrock, I do love UFC, and Frank Shamrock was an incredible UFC fighter, and he had this rule called 33% rule. And he said you spend a third of your time with people that you can teach, and I think he was talking about jiu-jitsu with this, but a third of the time with people that you can teach, because retention of knowledge is incredible when you teach others what you know. You need to spend a third of your time with people who are playing the same game as you. Like for him, it was like, if he's a purple belt, he's teaching the white belts, because he has a better understanding of the fundamentals of himself. One thing I love is I watched a Royce a Gracie fight, and he beat the second best in the world using basic white belt movements. And what was amazing about watching this video is it just goes to show that he basically beat him with the first 4 moves that you learn in your first few months of jiu-jitsu. The only difference is he had mastered them at such a level that he could beat anyone with them. So once again, 30 your time teaching others, because once again, you're helping them, you're helping yourself. People the same belt as you, learn things from each other, challenge each other, helping each other to level up. Black belts, people playing a bigger game than you, learn from them because they've been in the game longer. Too much time spent with them, you never feel good enough. Too much time teaching people, you don't learn anything yourself. So make sure that you're spending the right amount of time with the right people. And I think that's super important. I think something I spoke to you before about is the curse of knowledge. Sometimes we can hang around so much with the middle that we don't realize the problems below, which means that we can't connect and empathize with others because we just assume this shit's easy. Because we only hang around with people who, very much like me, hanging around with people who are in ridiculous shape all the time. I used to prep people for shows, and I remember one of my female athletes walking into the gym, me looking at every single person looking at her in the gym, because she looks phenomenal, walking up to her, how's it going? She goes, oh look, I feel like I feel fat. I'm 10 pounds over stage weight. And you're like, everyone is staring at you in the gym because of how amazing you look. But your head is just surrounded by other competitors. So you don't realise how good a shape you're actually in because it's not enough for you. And this is a mindset thing that a lot of people get in. They're never satisfied with what they have because they keep looking at the next level instead of very much like horizon and thinking, if you keep running towards horizon, it doesn't get any smaller. And you're like, fuck, I'm not going anywhere. What happens in that situation? You stop and you turn around. You realise that you've gone a good distance, and it's enjoying that view as you carry on going.
Look, people ask me, what's the key to success? The key to success is developing a set of skills that become so natural to you that people will pay you for the set of skills, right? So when you talk about, being an entrepreneur and worrying about money and stuff like that, well, you have to properly plan. And people, look, I came from the military. We don't make very much money in the military. I had to plan. I had to save money. I had to take jobs that I really didn't want to do just to move in that direction for a belief, right? So some people, they want to be, an artist, let's just say an artist. And they're willing to sleep in their cars. They're willing to go days without eating, right? So to me, it's just about that. Are you willing to die for this? Then if you're not, then, look, don't even get started. If you don't have the discipline, don't even get started. You're just you're wasting your time, you're wasting your money, right? But if you want to be an entrepreneur, first is that, first you need to come up with a good business plan, and that's built off of intelligence. And you can do that for free. Social media, you need to build a brand, that's free. Right? I didn't have very much money when I started my entrepreneurship. I took my whole savings and I placed it on a thought. So that's the thing, is that you have to believe in it, but don't go in there blindly. You have to look at the intelligence, right? So that's what I say to the entrepreneurs is first, what do you want? What are you good at? Because if you make a lot of money and you're good at this, but you don't want it, you never wanted this, then it's work. It's work. So you're telling me you're going to a job that you hate based off on a vision of what you perceive as happiness, which is external. If I have a nicer car, bigger house, nicer clothes, right? You go off of a vision externally. So the thing is, being an entrepreneur, you have to know what's important for you.
Try to live your life in such a way that you minimize the future prospect of regret. So what you don't want to do is wake up when you're my age now and say, I don't know why I ever became an accountant, because I did it because my dad said it was the right thing to do, and I come from a family of accountants, but I always wanted to be an artist. I always wanted to be a physician. So there's nothing that gnaws at the pit of your stomach more than, retroactive regret, right? And so really try to live your life, and there's a term actually, it's called anticipatory regret. Anticipate what your future regret might look like, and then live your life in a way that tries to minimize that. So for example, in my case, even though I had very little power in controlling it, my biggest regret, and certainly whenever the World Cup comes around, is that I never had the fortune of knowing what it is to step on a field when the entire world is there watching, and for you to perform on a world stage. I so regret that in my life I will never, the most I've played in front of is maybe 2,000 people. So the idea of playing in front of 100,000 crowd seems so magical and mystical to me. I regret that I never had the opportunity to do that. So live your life in a way, grab life by the horns of the bull, so to speak, and don't regret, because that gnaws at your spirit.
Thank you so much to everybody who is involved in this project. This is not possible without you guys supporting us at Mulliganbrothers.com. The new Memento Mori poster has been going out like crazy, so thank you to everybody, and I hope everybody is managing to use the tool to remind them that they are mortal, and it's a very, very powerful tool. So thank you. I personally have changed my attitude to waking up and getting on with it. It just happens a lot faster. Not that I wasn't motivated before, but I'm realizing how precious time is. I'm 30 years old, which some people might think's young, some people might think's old. And he's looking at me like, you old fogey. But time is precious, and it's not even about how old you are as well. Don't take time for granted. It's a limited resource, and we do not know how much we have left. That is the truth of it. That's the thing that I got from this poster, is there is a box on there that is numbered for me to never shade in. And it could be the next one, or it could be in 80 years' time. I don't know. But that's what's so precious about time. That's what's so fragile about life. We don't know what's going to happen next. So use every moment wisely. Stop wasting it. Thank you to everyone who supported us. All the profits from the website go back into creating this content. So have a blessed and productive day, and we'll deliver you some of the best motivation on the internet. Stay tuned. Peace.